So welcome Norman Younger to the J-Commerce Business Soundbite. Can I just ask you to start telling us a little bit about yourself and your business, please?
Good morning, Chaim. Thank you very much for inviting me on. My background in my business, gosh, I'm professionally qualified as an accountant, gave it up many years ago, and I spent 20 years as one of the country's leading company formation agents, doing stuff all around there and servicing the needs of accountants. And I now have a brokerage business. One side deals with accountancy practices, buying and selling them, and the other with industrial businesses. So that's it in a nutshell.
Cool. So when did you start this latest part of your business life, so to speak?
The latest part started in 2015 after I sold my business, January 2015, January the 23rd, memorable day. Took a year out to discover myself and look at what I was doing, and I did take with a division of the business was excluded from the sale, which was the part which wasn't a broker for accountancy practices, and I let things kind of drift 6 to 12 months, then decided it's time I started doing something. And then that led on with the core skill set being what it is, and because I'm also a trained negotiator and mediator, we bought a business, and I bought a business in 3 years ago, which was dealing with general business brokerage, and we'd run them sort of as sister companies, and it's the same core skill set but a very different kind of business. So that's what I do.
Great. Are you a one-man band, or do you have people, like a group of people working for you?
I'm a one-man band in as much as I am the owner of the business, but there are a couple of people who are what would be classed these days as workers, on a flexible basis, because it's feast or famine in this kind of game. You can be very quiet for a few weeks. Deals can just be going on simmering in the background, and there's not a lot to do. And all of a sudden, you're busy for days on end. And they've got other interests, so it suits them and it suits me. So we're asset light.
Great. Okay. So how did you get the idea or vision for your business, and what sort of research did you do before moving forward with it?
Well, originally, I had experience through my training as an accountant with company formation, and I realised I thought was a gap in the market in terms of offering the service in a slightly different way, but at a much cheaper way. And I shook things up, and eventually it caught up with me. Competitors all got in there. But I got myself established, right time, right place, and we prospered, and we had into double-digit figures people working for us, and it kept me busy. It was a proper full-time, proper business, and we sort of branched out into other services to accountants, which is because I dealt mainly with accountants. I decided to focus on one sector, which is why I decided to go into the brokerage. Again, I found a way of pricing things differently, and that's what I got a foot in the door.
Okay, so when you started off, did you have somebody to bounce ideas off? Was it friends, family, any associates?
Nope, just the mirror.
Did you break it?
Many times over. I did, obviously, as I grew and I had senior staff members working for me, I had people to bounce things off, and it definitely made a lot more sense, and was definitely beneficial to me to do that.
Okay, so in that case, did you have anyone to provide you with that sort of like professional advice, starting off a business?
Well, as a qualified accountant, I didn't need that advice. I was able to do it myself, but throughout the years, I've learned the value of paying professionals for their advice. It does not pay to cut corners on these fronts. Been there, done it, got the T-shirt like everyone else has.
Definitely. So, did you have any sort of plan B or C in case this didn't work out?
Nope. I'm very much fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy. Let's see where it takes us. As the saying goes, no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. I think having an open mind that one might need to change is the best plan B in a strategic sense that one can have. Tactically, plans B, C, D, all the way down to plan Z, then plan ZA. It'll change all the time, and especially now in this rapidly evolving business climate we find ourselves in.
Okay, so did you learn any lessons on the way that you could share with people watching this?
Yes, many lessons. Where to start? The first is that you don't know it all. The second is that you can never stop learning. And the third is if you are going to diversify, pay people for advice. And even when you pay people for the advice, you can end up getting duff advice. I have had that, and it was very costly. It's the way it is in life. Sometimes you're going to get burnt fingers. If that's the decree, that's the decree. It's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. So based on that last point, how do you ensure that you're, seeking out the right advice? Speaking to.
Well, you have to ask people, number one, who they've spoken to and what they felt the advice was like, but that's not guaranteed. I actually do due diligence for companies, sometimes for buying other companies, get called in to make an evaluation. And when people are buying companies, they ask me, how do we know we're getting this right? But my advice is just keep crawling through everything, keep going until your gut feeling tells you either something's not right, or your gut feeling says, this does look right, we've covered all the possibilities, let's do this. And it's that let's do this point, which is where you're going to have to follow your own judgment. And even then, it's not guaranteed. If you're up against a con man, for example, or someone's has not been truthful to you and only they know they're not being truthful, or they happen to be incompetent on follow through, they talk a good talk, they walk a good walk, but the service afterwards is lousy. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. If you look in the business books and the business headlines, stories are legion of deals which went wrong.
Okay, that's good. So this is probably quite an up question during these times. Did you ever feel like it was too hard or want to give up?
I felt sometimes it was hard, too hard. Not really. Right at the very beginning, over that was 26 years ago now when I started out of the bedroom, there was a point where I was pitching advertising, and I didn't have the experience to understand that you really have to stick at your advertising, and I got very despondent in the early days because it just wasn't working. But eventually, things clicked, and it is hard in the early days when nothing's doing and you haven't got that. The switch has not been flicked in heaven, so to speak, and the doors don't start to open. In terms of now, where I'm sort of reinventing where my business is, there's a lot of hard work ahead of me. I have started that journey during COVID. I can see the green shoots, but I know I've got a lot of work ahead of me.
Okay, good luck with that. So
Thank you.
A while ago, we had a seminar, webinar with Will Kintich talking about networking. People should watch that, by the way. Do you think it's important to network?
It's crucial. It's something which I neglected for a long time, for many years. Partially, I didn't need to do it. My business was on the whole remote. We did it over the telephone in the early days, and then over the internet, and then it was very rare that I got to meet my clients because most of the time it was small amounts on an infrequent basis, but they were regular clients. I did meet some of the larger ones. The networking per se wasn't really, I didn't feel that it worked for me because in these pre-LinkedIn days and such, like, it was like business breakfast, and there were places I felt that at the time, rightly or wrongly, people were just out to sell themselves. And the service I was offering, to be honest, would only have been of interest to an accountant. And even then, it might be 3 or 4 times. You're looking at a few £100 a year, and I couldn't really offer them anything back in return. So I didn't do a lot of networking. I'm not the most sociable of people, to be honest. Went to one or two networking events. One of them I recall was the chief executive of a very public travel company, and I've never seen a man full of himself, so much ego. So I didn't enjoy it. And with LinkedIn, I am a worker on LinkedIn. I network through email shotting, and I do a lot of LinkedIn work. And I'm now lifting the phone to people if they meet certain criteria through LinkedIn. So yes, networking is important, and nowadays it's never been easier to network, even if you're not a very sociable person.
Okay, so talking about networking, sorry, so LinkedIn, that's a nice segue to the next question. So how important do you think it is to have a website and engage with others, potential clients or whoever over social media?
It's mission critical. You've got to choose the right social media. You can't be all things to all men, and maintaining your social media is hard work. And you don't want to be bombarded by stuff from people who are totally irrelevant to what you do. My own LinkedIn, I'm now very laser-like focused on who I connect with, and I have been getting rid of some people, even family members, and I've said, you know what, I'm not connecting with you. There's no point. Do I need to be connected to a rocket scientist who lives in Melbourne? Probably not. Will something come of it? It's a possibility. But I think there's a benefit. People can see that you're focused on certain sectors as well. And it just means that what you're dealing with, the avalanche of things that are going to come in and across your desk, it's going to keep that more relevant.
Yeah, your LinkedIn feed can get clogged pretty quickly if you have a lot of pointless connections, for sure. Okay, sort of like, okay, this is good leading on to the next question. So when you post stuff on LinkedIn or whatever, you might get negative comments and critics, through just general day-to-day business. So how do you handle those critics and negative comments?
Well, if it's something you're posting, it's an article or something of thought leadership, I do a lot of that. It makes you think twice before you let it loose into the wild. I'm always asking myself, what is the point of what I'm writing? Is this out and out marketing disguised as something else, or is it truly informational thought leadership which is worthy of debate? It makes you think properly. In terms of if you've given someone a bad service and you've messed up, do people go on LinkedIn and grumble about these things? I don't know. I haven't come across people grouching. I see people liking things and things, but ultimately, if one has to deal with these things, that's part of business life, I suppose. If you get it wrong, you need to make amends, put your hand up perhaps. But like I say, on LinkedIn, it's not something I've come across. I know on Facebook, which I'm not on, you've got, do they have the thumbs down button as well? I know you get it for YouTube videos, but I'm not sure whether you can have that on LinkedIn.
You can. There's like an angry face or crying.
Right. I think LinkedIn in general is more professional in its approach, so people know that it's not the sort of place where you want to have an emotional response to something. You're going to sort of think things through carefully. That's my understanding of LinkedIn, which is what I like about it.
Yeah. Okay. So with the benefit of hindsight, which we all like to have,
2020 hindsight.
Literally, what would you do different, if anything at all?
I would have taken advice from people in business at an earlier stage, talk to more people, bounced ideas off more people at an earlier stage. It might have been because my network just wasn't big, which takes us back to networking, but definitely I would have bounced ideas and consulted more with people at an earlier stage.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice. Well, the last question was, finally, what single piece of advice would you give to others? I guess
I've given it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all the questions. Is there anything else you want?
Nothing I can think of. Obviously, it's been great to tell part of my story. Don't think you've got enough time for the rest of my story. But I enjoy what I'm doing. It's had its challenges, had its ups and downs. And actually, there's one piece of advice I can give to people. Yeah, one piece of advice, which is when you have good years, don't drain your business, because the good years don't last forever.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Definitely true. Cool. Okay. Well, Norman, thank you very much for.
My pleasure. Thank you, Chaim.
Thank you.